good morning, world. A special good morning to my Caribbean brothers and sisters. We welcome you this morning to another edition of THG News Today with Mervyn Hanley. We are in a brand new month and a brand new week. The time is flying, no doubt. It is Tuesday, April 2nd, and I hope that you're well rested after your long Easter holiday weekend. This morning's news is sponsored by Carl & Sons Unique Bakery on St. Maarten and Thesis on Nevis. We will not feature any spotlight today, but for sure tomorrow morning. And how Spotlight works? For $150, we will speak about your business, be it large or small business, for up to 10 days. You can't beat that. And it is not a quick 30-second ad or anything like that, more so of an infomercial where we talk about your business for only $150. So WhatsApp us today to sign up at 1-869-667-7443. That's 1-869-667-7443. Also, before we get into the news, if you're here for the first time, or if you were here already and you forgot to subscribe to our YouTube channel, now is your time to do so. Please, I ask before you leave here to subscribe to our channel so that you're kept informed on the very latest. Yeah? Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's get to the news, shall we? We begin this morning with news out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves remains adamant that St. Vincent and the Grenadines will not embrace the Citizenship by Investment program as a policy. Speaking on the radio, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said the program has already proven itself to be problematic. Dr. Gonsalves said countries that are heavily reliant on CBI for recurrent expenditures put themselves in a vulnerable position and might require the help of the IMF, which will impose stringent measures. There are some countries where 50 to 60% of their revenues go to the government, according to Prime Minister Gonsalves. Recurrent revenues to keep the government going, they get from the Citizenship by Investment program. If between 50 and 60% of your revenues go to pay salaries, to buy medicines, education, health, etc., when the IMF comes to you, they are going to be very stringent. They are going to freeze salaries. If you own water and electricity, they are going to tell you to privatize them, Dr. Gonsalves explained. According to the Prime Minister, St. Vincent's passport is more highly valued than practically every passport with Citizenship by Investment programs. We can go to 152 countries in the world without a visa, Dr. Gonsalves said. And speaking of the Citizenship by Investment program, we now move to news out of Nevis Premier of Nevis. The Honourable Mark Brantley, during his March 27th press conference, said CBI countries will have to continue to implement new policies and regulations imposed by blocs like the EU. The European Union just last week, according to Premier Brantley, put out something saying they will be re-evaluating visa-free access to the EU based on a number of factors. And you know one of the factors? Countries that have Citizenship by Investment programs, where the people who are being granted citizenship have no real connection with that country. You see, let us understand that the EU and those organizations are not there to help us. They are there to help themselves, according to the Premier. But you know what? Let's take a few minutes and watch this clip of Premier Brantley, and I must register that I am in total agreement with the Premier. Let's give a listen.
When the EU had Malta, Cyprus, Portugal, when the UK was attracting all of these billionaire Russians who were buying up wealthy areas in London like Mayfair and Knightsbridge, when Abramovich and those were buying football teams in England, incidentally now, they have money flowing in from the Middle East, the Qataris and the Saudis are now spending. They are always trying to find a way to build their economies, to grow their countries, to do right by their people. Well then, Mr. Bard, why should small countries like St. Kitts and Nevis not have that same right? You think St. Kitts and Nevis could ever dare to say to Germany that your citizenship laws are offensive and you ought not to be issuing passports to certain people? They would naturally laugh at us. They would say, we are a sovereign nation, you can't tell us to do that. But they feel that they can dictate to us. And they do it in subtle ways. And one of the ways is they keep talking about their rules, changing their rules. And I think that all of us must start to speak with one voice. I am no longer foreign minister, so I guess I have a little more freedom to speak in a way that is not as diplomatic. But I am tired of the efforts, which are clear efforts to derail the economic progress that is being made here. The Citizenship by Investment program wasn't a big deal when it served Europe, and they benefited. The Golden Visa wasn't a big deal when it served London and the UK. The situation in Canada, I mentioned it before. When Hong Kong was reverting to Chinese rule, Canada came up with an interesting plan. Tell all the rich Hong Kong Chinese to come to Vancouver. And if you go there today, you know what the local Canadians say? The property prices are now too high for them to afford because so many flooded in to British Columbia that they drove up property prices. Do you think that was by accident? Or people in Hong Kong just say, let us go to cold British Columbia? Government policy to attract them, to bring them, because you see that there's an economic benefit to having them. Well, how come when St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Dominica do it? You're blue vex. And we are wrong and we are doing something that is improper. So initially the EU started this talk about tax, but they had a difficulty because our programs are not residency programs. Our programs are citizenship programs, and their tax system is based on residency. So they couldn't quite get the tax question to say we're avoiding tax. They couldn't quite get that. They started to talk about security. So, oh, you're giving people a passport, we don't know who they are. Well, let us share the information. And so when Elke Hewlett applies for St. Kitts Nevis passport, we will send you the information so that you have access, you know who is applying. Let us use the joint JRCC system in Barbados. So all of the nations that are part of that system have access to the information. Let us use Canadian Banknote Company to produce the passports at the highest levels in terms of machine readable, in terms of being difficult to forge. They're the same people I think make currency. Let us do all that. So each time they raise an objection and you meet their concern, they shift. So now the concern seems to be, if you decide to grant citizenship to people who are not connected with your country. I don't know what that is supposed to mean.
That was the Honourable Premier of Nevis, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley. And finally, with news out of St. Maarten, well, just some information and update. The governor met with the one who's supposed to be leading St. Maarten, the next Prime Minister of St. Maarten, Dr. Luc Mercelina, on Thursday, and received an update on the progress of the formation. The incoming Prime Minister requested an additional extension to present Governor Bailey the final formation report, as the background screening of the candidate ministers is presently still ongoing. Taking this into account, Governor Bailey granted the commission for Dr. Mercelina to present him the final report of the formation of government by April 26, 2024. Now, let's put this into context for those of you who may not understand what is going on. There was an election on St. Maarten on January the 11th. This is April 2nd. And the new so-called coalition government, or the 2x4 government, that's 4 parties with 2 seats each who came together to form a coalition, they are not installed as a new government as yet because they have to go through screenings or this, all the wheelings and dealings. So I do not want to be a party pooper. And while I want the best for an island that I love so much, there's a saying that we use in the islands, you know, what starts bad will end bad. And I do believe that this coalition, and I really do not want to say it, but I am forced to say it, that I do not think that they will last, because it's just one thing after the next. And this is his second request for an extension to the governor to get this coalition formed. Of course, I don't mind the current leader who's there, Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs, but the people voted on January the 11th, And with all this that's happening, it's not good for the people. It's not good for the country. And then to me, personally, who's supposed to be the next Prime Minister, Dr. Mercelina, he's there taking his own sweet time and just waiting to ask for an extension after extension to form his government. You see, too, he's a full-time doctor, a medical doctor. And there are already reports that seems to suggest that he seems to be more focused on being a doctor and being at the hospital and all of that than actually forming a government. 3 months now almost, and counting, and no new government. It's a ridiculous process, it's a frustrating one, and it's unfair to the good people of St. Maarten. And that's all I have to say on that matter. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our news for today. Do join us again tomorrow morning, God's willing, at 6 o'clock for a similar presentation. I am Mervyn Hamley, and I'm wishing you all the best for today. And the news, of course, is sponsored by Carl & Sons on St. Maarten and Thesis on Nevis. God bless. Carl & Sons have been serving the people of St. Maarten for over 40 years. And the food and service get better and better. From early morning, customers flock to the bakery for their favorite sandwiches, cakes, pastries, you name it. First thing at mornings and last thing at afternoons, folks rush to Carl & Sons for simply the best. There are 2 locations, Colbay and on the Pondville. In Colbay, the opening hours are Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sundays, 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Opening hours on the Pondville, Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also cater for weddings, parties, special events, whatever the occasion. It's Carl & Sons. Our staff, we are always happy to serve you. Call us today, the Colbay location, 721-544-2462. That's 721-544-2462. Or in Phillipsburg, 721-543-1059. That's 721-543-1059. It's Carl & Sons Bakery. We are here to serve you. Nevis, satisfy your sweet tooth at Feases, the cozy spot in Charlestown, known for its mouth-watering ice cream and dal parade. We are open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in and sample our patties, sandwiches, air-fried wings with fries, hot dogs, rotis, and now our famous smoothies, in all flavors of course. And don't forget to try the famous bus-up shut and saltfish. It's Feases, located at the entrance to the Cotton Ginnery Mall in Charlestown, Nevis. They're also available by phone, so place your order by calling 1-869-665-2458. Don't ask about the rest, just try the best.